Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. My name is Ken.
And I'm Nicole,
And welcome to our podcast series, Burnout Burns.
where we discuss all about burning out, the science, the factors, and how to lead a more sustainable life.
Today's thought is actually from this book by Jim Collins, and it's Good to Great. And he actually mentions a certain part in this book of his. He says that very few startups end up becoming great companies because they often struggle with the balance of bureaucracy and the spirit of entrepreneurship. So part of the book discusses about discipline, and he also talks about how companies should actually engage in disciplined thoughts, face realities instead of avoiding challenges or sugarcoating them. Great companies actually take disciplined action by adhering to a consistent and focused strategy. They don't succumb to fads or impulsive decision. They are always strategic in the way they approach something. So today, we're going to talk about having the discipline to say yes and the discipline to say no at the same time. So there are often two sides of the coin. What do we say yes to? What do we say no to? Do we always say yes? Do we always say no? So today I'm going to pick your brain on this idea of the discipline of saying yes or no. Nicole, do you have a problem saying no when it comes to work, right? Are you a chronic yes man?
Yes, I think that's something most business owners struggle with because on one hand, you want as much revenue as possible. And so it becomes very hard to say no. And we also think that being a yes man would keep our clients. But actually, that is not entirely true. And I think that there is value and wisdom in saying no. So like in the book that Jim Collins wrote, right, he said that we have to face reality and not be in like la la land. Like there's this TikTok saying that the salulu is to be delulu, which is basically to be delusional. And that obviously we have to face the reality that we don't have the ability to say yes to everybody. Because when you're saying yes to everybody, you're actually also saying no to something else. Basically, you can't really satisfy everyone if you are always saying yes to everyone because you are only finite. When you first start your business, you tend to say yes to everything because you are very new, you are a startup, and basically what you want to do, your goal for that maybe first season of starting a business is you want to gain as much exposure, gain as much experience, and build a reputation for yourself. So you say yes to anything that comes and you want to do it well so that you start to have this word of mouth, you start to have this reputation in the industry. But once you've already achieved all that, your goals will then shift to the next level, and that's where you have to refine your goal and say, okay, maybe I'm looking for a certain kind of project. This is how I want my business to be like in 2 or 3 years time. And every decision that you make when you say yes to a project or no to a project, that is leading you step by step either closer to your goal or further away from it.
I think that's so true. I think this is the perspective of a business owner, of course, right?
Yeah.
Like, how did you start learning to say no? Is there a tactful way of saying no? Is it always non-negotiable and is it always like binary?
Long ago when I was doing wedding business, I attended a workshop, and I think most photographers who are in a wedding business would say that they don't actually struggle with the craft itself, but they struggle with the sales part. And so when you are trying to learn how to say no, or when someone asks you to do something that is not part of your, let's say, your package or whatever, and you feel that you are unable to keep giving the extra, whether is it time or service or product, you can use a script at the very beginning when you are learning to say in a tactful and respectful manner. So the phrase that was being taught was, I wish I could, but I can't. Basically, saying it in a nice way that you can't.
It really depends, right? Like in certain situation, you might not say like, no, I can't fulfill your request. But instead, if you look a little bit deeper and then perhaps understand where the person is coming from, and also understanding how much you can give, right? Like, do I have enough energy? Do I have enough time to fulfill this request?
Yeah.
And then I start to think that, maybe I can't do it for you like now.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying like no, but how about I repropose maybe a different date.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
For example, like if it's we are coming to a close to the end of the day, and I have like 2 hours left, and I was given an urgent task to complete in this 2 hours, but then like as I'm going to start this urgent task, another urgent task comes in, and I'm like, oh, okay, I am working on this. Would you like me to move this to another day so that I can focus on this? Or would you like me to still prioritize this? So that's kind of like somewhat saying no, but it's not that I don't want to do it. It's just that I physically can't do both at the same time.
was there any time in your life that you actually struggled with saying no? And was there a time in which you said too many yeses? And perhaps maybe share with us, listening out there, what are some of the repercussions of perhaps saying yes too much?
Yeah, I think with a lot of people, and I've seen it happen to a lot of my entrepreneur friends, or even like people who work too much, the body says no for you. Your body will just like, goodbye, I want to go on MC. But even then, some people still try to push through despite their body being the ones to say no. And for me, I realized that if I keep on saying yes to other people at the expense of myself, it's not healthy. And I've seen the hard truth and the hard lesson that when you die, you will just be replaced.
Yeah, so in that sense, your body gives way. Like if you keep saying yes, you eventually burn out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The fire stops burning, and that's the end of the line.
Mm.
And in a very serious situation,
Yeah.
your body fails, right?
Yeah. And this is also one of the main drivers for us to do this podcast, because I don't want other people to face a similar situation, where like they're so overwhelmed with life that they just give up on it.
Yeah, so I mean, prevention is always better than cure, right?
Definitely.
You don't want to reach until a situation where things become so bad until you can't come back from it and spend like decades trying to recover from like burnout and things like that. That's saying no at the workplace, right? But in terms of society, I can't help but think that there's also some parallel there, right? Is there also a problem? Do you think people have a problem saying no as well?
Yeah, so I think in society, yes, definitely we have a hard time accepting no, and we also have a hard time saying no. And that's the problem, because if you accept that other people can say no and you don't have a problem with that, then you would also start to feel that it's okay for you to say no.
Not knowing how to say no in our society, is there a big problem with that nowadays?
Yeah, so sometimes we have to say yes because we don't want to be rejected. It's a survival mechanism because we need to belong to a community. And in order to do that, we say yes because we are afraid of being rejected when we say no. There's this fear when we are growing up, when we're young, we don't want to be ostracized from our community because it's survival. But as we get older, we can think deeper into what are our priorities and what are our value systems. And then from there, learn why you are saying no. So don't just say no for the sake of saying no, but understand why you are making these decisions. Because when you kind of say yes, it means that you are kind of going with the wind, and you're always at the mercy of other people's priorities and other people's value system, which might be different from yours for what you need for that season of life.
For those of us who keep saying yes, and we would like to start to live in this world where we can start drawing some healthy boundaries, we leave you guys today with 3 helpful tips that we thought, were helpful to us personally. And we hope to share this with you. Number 1.
Yeah, so the first one is to find people that you trust and that you respect, and you both have mutual respect and that you feel safe with. And you can let them know like, hey, I'm trying to grow my no muscle and to exercise saying no. And, can you help me along with that? Because like I really trust you and like we have a good relationship, so I'm gonna try to practice saying no with you. Can you help me along that journey? When you are able to come along with someone that you trust and practice saying certain things, and the way you say it, it really helps. So before you say no to someone, you're like, hey, I'm gonna practice saying it to you. Yeah, can we do that? Yeah,
and I think the second tip that we have for you is saying no to the little things.
Yeah, so the struggle with like saying no often is because you fear being authentic, and that means that you fear showing your real self because you're afraid of rejection.
Yeah, or you're scared to offend somebody else.
Yeah, so sometimes like when you meet someone for the first time, and let's say you really really don't like durian, and then this person really loves durian, and then they're like, telling you durian is so good and all that kind of thing. You want to continue this conversation, so you're like, yeah, durian, but actually you don't like durian. Yeah, so practicing being a little bit more authentic around your family or your friends or the people around you will help you to eventually build that muscle to also say no. I also actively share or educate my family and friends about me being introverted so that they don't feel offended by my introversion. Yeah, so sometimes I will make a statement and say, oh yeah, well, I'm not like that, like I just want to go home and sleep. Practicing being authentic in the little ways, like even like what kind of food you like to eat, or like what kind of colors do you like, that helps you to build up your muscle of being able to say no eventually. So you're starting with small things and then you're building it up to the bigger things.
Yeah. And the third and final tip that we have for you is learning to be comfortable with the discomfort, right? When you say no to people, the reaction from others might not always be so understanding or so pleasant. Getting used to that discomfort, and not being discouraged and not like, because like there was so much adverse reaction to it, so I think I will start saying yes again. No. You mentioned, and I think it's like a muscle. I think it's something that we got to train up in the small areas, and learning to get comfortable with that discomfort actually helps us grow that muscle along the way. Any parting thoughts for you?
I think it's a journey, and don't be too hard on yourself, but also be clear about your motivation, why you are saying no, and your value system. Yeah, and then I think that would help a lot more.
So that was great. I hope you guys found these tips to be helpful. Share with us and leave a comment below if you found it to be. Do drop us a like and subscribe if you're new around here. I'm Ken and that's Nicole. We hope you guys had a good time. We'll see you guys in the next episode. See ya.
Bye.